Hi, my name is Ryan. This is my first devlog for a game I'm calling Dungeon Sandbox. I am an indie game developer living outside of New York City. What inspired me to make this game is games like Zelda, Mario Maker, and Dungeons and Dragons. I really like games that give you the tools to make your own stories. The interesting thing about this footage you're watching now is this level was made in my game. I wanted to build a level editor that was very intuitive to use, just like Mario Maker, that is easy to understand and quick to experiment with. This would allow players to create levels fast that are really complex while keeping it fun. In the next couple of weeks, I hope to build some more complex mechanics, just like your typical Zelda dungeon. I also want to find a UI style that fits the game better. While there is still a lot of progress to be made, with community support, I am confident that it will be completed soon. But the game didn't start out this way. It took a huge amount of failures to get to this point. Back in 2018, this is what the game started out as. I had the idea after playing Breath of the Wild to create a game where you could build your own story, make your own quests, place weapons, enemies, procedural dungeons, and of course, it would be multiplayer, so you could play with your friends. So I started toying around with ideas, buying every asset I could. I would program as much as possible. But with 3 kids and a full-time job, I didn't really have time. I couldn't get the art style to look right. There were a ton of bugs. And I didn't understand how to program multiplayer. I ended up dropping the project and restarting it over about 4 or 5 times. But I don't regret it one bit. In this process, I learned a ton about Unity, about game scope, and I fine-tuned some of my programming skills. At some point, I realized the scope was way too big, and decided to limit my game to dungeons only. So I started building a dungeon editor, but I was having a difficult time getting it to work right. I never really polished it. It's safe to say, I lost my motivation and took a step back from game development. Then, about a year ago, the whole world changed. And so did everything else. My wife was working long hours at the hospital. School shut down, and I was stuck quarantining in my house with our kids with nowhere to go. I knew I had to take this opportunity to start working on my game again. So I started taking classes, and I started programming again. I decided to program everything from scratch. This way, I knew how everything worked and how to optimize it. I started off by making a 2D level editor, like you were working with blueprints. This was efficient, and I liked it. But players always had a problem with the scale of the map and how it was related. So I ended up scrapping it and making a 3D level editor instead. Back in November, I ended up taking the leap by leaving my full-time job. To care for my kids who were still doing school online, I decided to follow my dreams and become an indie game developer. And I couldn't be happier. I love what I'm doing. I absolutely love creating games. And I want to keep making games and putting out new content. So if you're interested in my current project, check out my social media for more details. We are starting a beta program on Discord. The link's in the description. If you like this devlog and want to see more, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback.